Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, with the first of our National Signing Day Reports 2020, December 18th, the day that is marked on the calendars of college football fans all over the country because, like the NFL draft, this is where it all starts. You need the talent to win the games, and this is when most of the blue chippers signed over the past couple seasons, about 75 to 80%. We start on the West Coast at USC. We got Matt Lowry on the line from Conquest Chronicles to help us break down the Trojans class. Matt, how you doing today?
Doing pretty good, thanks. How about yourself?
I am doing just fine. We had you on just a few days ago to outline USC's class, so we invite folks to jump on over there to the video that we posted just a few days ago where Matt outlined most of the class for 2020 that does not come anywhere close to meeting USC expectations. Of course, the Clay Helton situation and the uncertainty, Matt, of his coaching status at the university had to bring down this class to a certain extent, that even though he's been much maligned, his recruiting classes have been solid up until this one that stands right now 11th in the Pac-12, number 76 in the nation. So I think you would agree that the Clay Helton coaching status being uncertain has hurt him this fall.
Yeah, it has been pretty uncertain right now. And right now, USC just lost out on, speaking of that, USC just lost out on the #1 linebacker in the nation. Justin FLOWE just committed to Oregon, as it's shown on a live stream just a few minutes ago. So USC was making some steam on him, but they ended up missing out on him. I guess it was too late of a push for USC to kind of to sway that decision.
All right, so we get the word in right now from Matt Lowry, Justin FLOWE, #1 inside linebacker in the nation, going to Oregon.
Yeah.
Similar to the result we just saw this time last year with Kayvon Thibodeau choosing Oregon.
Yeah, and somebody made a great point. This is actually back-to-back years that the top defensive player in California has committed to Oregon. And you have to think, if you're USC, this has to be a concern. If you're a fan, this has to be a concern because USC's now it has been losing out on top talent to schools like Oregon. And it's never good that you lose out you lose out on your top recruit to in-conference rivals such as Oregon. But if you look at the Oregon game, and I think many people saw it, if you saw the Oregon game, and if you saw how Oregon made a statement against USC in the Coliseum, that kind of had recruits thinking, do I really want to be at USC right now, seeing that Oregon is putting a stamp on Los Angeles right now? So it's pretty concerning. And these were guys who are typically locks for USC. These are guys who are more of locks or leans for USC, and USC's getting away from them. But with this, with the recruiting class right now, as you mentioned, it's not up to par to USC standards, if you want to put it that way. It's more of everybody expects USC to be in the top 2, top 3 in the conference, maybe top 15 in the nation. And right now they're 11th. I mean, they have a lot of offensive tackles that they have signed in this year's class. They signed, I think, about maybe 5 or 6 in Andreas Duwerk, Caden Stephan, and quite a few more. That includes Cortland Ford. But at the same time, it's not up to it's USC fans want results. They want the top-notch players to get to that elite status.
Matt, this is the 76th ranked class in the nation. I can't imagine that it's going to finish 76th or anything close to 76. I just can't imagine. When you say it's not meeting USC standards, it's not meeting Boston College standards at this point. Number 76 in the nation. So it was numbered to make that comparison. Number 20, according to 247 Sports last year, number 4 and number 4, the 2 previous seasons to that, in 2018 and 2017, a top 4 class 2 consecutive years under Clay Helton. to a number 20 class. And again, currently number 76, of course, the day's not complete. And then, of course, the rest of the signees coming in before February. So that being said, Matt, who do you have your eye on right now in regards to who's in the mix for USC?
Well, there's a couple of guys who are in the mix for USC. One's being LV Bunkley Shelton out of Las Vegas. He's a guy that's in the mix for USC. Another being Gary Bryant Jr., who just had a visit earlier this week with Justin FLOWE. He's from what I've seen, he is a heavy, or a lot of the crystal balls have him as a USC lean by 60%. Very explosive player from what I've heard. I also spoke with Drake, with not Drake, but with Drake Jackson's dad, actually, who also his son, who Drake Jackson played at Centennial, had a lot of high things to say about Gary Bryant Jr. But he's a guy to keep an eye on. Also, Elijah Badger's another guy, another wide receiver. Those are some key guys to keep an eye on for USC that could add offensively. Defensively, right now for USC, it just boils down to who's out there. I mean, I know USC received Kobe Pepe's letter of intent, who was also voted as the Trinity League's lineman of the year, and also had a monster year for St. John Bosco, who just won the national title this past weekend. So he's a guy to keep an eye on. But right now, defensively for recruits, I don't think there's much out there that really people have their eye on right now, or that could step up. Now, it could be different. I mean, stars don't really mean anything. Players, once they step in, they can make an impact. We've seen it before. So there's some guys to keep an eye on, but whether they choose USC at this point or not is completely unknown, given the status of USC at the moment.
So as it stands right now, there are 11 signed, according to 247 Sports. Jonah Monheim out of Moorpark, California, would be the highest rated. The guard, 13th ranked at his position. Josh Jackson also is signed, the wide receiver out of California as well. So some of the guys that are either hard commits that you're almost 100% sure are going to sign today, or the guys that have already officially signed and are officially sealed. Out of all those guys, who are the guys that jump out for you?
To me, it's Josh Jackson Jr. And the reason why I say that is because with him, he adds to an already dynamic USC wide receiving core. We know that is the strength of USC's team is their wide receivers. How the way he's looked this season, I think he can contribute right away. Now, again, it depends, because you're going to have John Jackson III, as well as Brew McCoy and Kyle Ford now in the mix for next year's team. But Manor McLean is currently nursing a torn ACL, so he won't be back until sometime in the middle of next season. In comes not Gary Bryant Jr., but in comes Josh Jackson Jr., who's an early enrollee, and now can contribute right away. But also that also depends on who else signs with USC. But I think Josh Jackson Jr. is a guy who stands out to me on this in this class, as well as Kobe Pepe. I think he could contribute right away in the interior line, given that USC's interior line is going to be bringing back just about everybody. So I think he could step in and contribute right away as well. He's versatile. He can play on the interior line, or you can move him to the edge. But I think he's going to start interior and get a lot of rotation time at that position.
Pepe, 47th rated at his position, defensive tackle out of California. Bellflower, California, 49th rated prospect in the state. I think we need to use a balanced approach in looking at the rankings, both in the state and in terms of position, because do they mean a lot? Yes, they mean a lot. the teams that win and compete for national championships on a yearly basis, Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, yeah, they're at the top of the recruiting rank. They meet a whole bunch, but people believe me and just look at it. There are tons and tons and tons of players out there in the Power Five that are star players, impact players that were, people start to that aren't really involved in the process, as you know, Matt, may turn their nose up to anything less than a 4-star. There are droves. Even the Alabamas of the world, their roster is full of 3 stars. Tons of 3 stars excel. 2 stars excel at this level. So it goes to player evaluation, player development. All that comes into play. Yes, do you want the 5 stars and the 4 stars? Of course you do. But when you mention something like Pepe and he's 48th rated at his position, I can hear the backlash of, well, that's not USC standard. He's a top 50 player at his position. He could turn out to be an exceptional player. It's all based on his will and development and the right scheme and the right fit for him. So that certainly plays into it. Matt, what do you think the backlash is going to be from USC, a USC fan base that, and we've had the conversation a number of times, mostly wasn't in favor of retaining Helton. And when they see that he's brought in really good recruiting classes and hasn't necessarily turned them into a winner, now he's got one rated 76th in the country. And again, I don't expect it to stay there, but it's not going to be a good class by standards. I would think that the fan base is not going to be happy.
No, they're not happy. Like we've talked about it before, fans weren't really happy with retaining Helton. That was like the biggest outcry I think I have ever seen for a USC coach is when they retained Helton. And how the way they're recruiting right now doesn't really make them any much more happier at this point. I mean, and for understandable reasons, USC is getting out recruited by Oregon. They're seeing their top players, which, as Urban Meyer mentioned, a 2-hour drive away. They're going to Oregon and to, all to these different schools out the state. And I think that has to do with the inability of USC being able to turn the talent that they have into a winner. If you look at 24/7's talent rankings, USC is 4th. USC is 4th in those talent rankings that was posted, I believe, not that long ago. And they're winning. They won 5 games last year, and they're 8-4. I mean, regardless how you want to look at those games and everything, something's not quite adding up. And then if you want to go back to 2 years ago when they won the Pac-12 championship, they were getting blown out by Notre Dame and Ohio State. Okay, move back one more year. They start 1-3 and get shellacked by Alabama before rallying off 9 wins in a row and beating Penn State in the Rose Bowl. So it's more of USC fans are just wondering why, if we're talking about competing at a national scale and being an elite program again, why are we retaining a guy who's not going to get us there? And I think it's something that we won't have the answer to. I don't have the answer to it. I'm searching for the answer still, but it's something that we won't know and until USC fans get a proper explanation. And basically with Bone and Folk, we're not going to get that explanation anytime soon.
Matt Lowry, Conquest Chronicles, please join him and the rest of the staff covering USC football on National Signing Day. Matt, I know that you've got a ton to keep track of, try to get down the information and all the recruits and a lot of articles to write. So I appreciate you stopping by.
No problem, and it's it's going to be interesting just to see how USC's recruiting shapes up moving forward. Like you said, I don't envision them being 70th or in the 70s any much longer. I think they'll rise at about 9th or 8th in the Pac-12. But right now it's about developing these guys. And I think USC fans have to look at it like this. USC has a lot of guys coming back next year too. So it's going to be, although USC is not doing it recruiting wise for the 2020 class, you really, the focus is you want to get a lot of those guys who can declare for the draft. You want to get a lot of those guys back to shape up next year. So that's where I think that's where the focus of USC fans, I think that's where it should be right now, is returning a lot of those guys.